Hey, Village. Welcome to Womanhood Decoded, the space where we tackle the hard stuff, celebrate the wins, and everything in between. I am your host, Tasha Ray. On this episode, we will explore one of the most life affirming forces in our lives as women: sisterhood, friendships, and the support systems that carry us when we can't carry ourselves. Let's begin with a quote to anchor this episode. Women's friendships are like a renewable source of energy. When nurtured, they replenish our sense of self and remind us of our power. Bell Hooks. Now let's talk about the power of women holding space for other women. The way we braid each other's hair, lift each other up, pass along recipes, give each other prayers and strength like heirlooms. I want to take a moment to thank each and every one of you for taking a moment to join me today from wherever you are watching or listening. I truly appreciate you, and I am so happy that you are here for this week's episode. So let's get into it today. A legacy of sisterhood. To understand sisterhood today, we have to look back, way back. Let's start with the power of collective care. Think of Sojourner Truth, a woman who rose from the trauma of enslavement, not just to free herself, but to speak truth to a nation that refused to see Black women as human. That wasn't just boldness, that was sisterhood in its most fiercest form. When she stood on the stage in 1851 and declared, "Ain't I a woman?" she wasn't just demanding rights for herself, she was demanding visibility, dignity, and the power for all women who looked like her. She traveled across states, often alone, calling out the hypocrisies of feminism that excluded Black women and the inhumanity of a system that tried to erase them. She was carried not just by her own fire, but by the quiet strength of Black women who fed her, housed her, prayed over her, and passed her words along from hand to hand like sacred messages. They didn't need permission to organize. They understood that the survival of one tied to the survival of all. Together, they forged an early blueprint for liberation rooted in sisterhood, truth, and an unshakable faith. Now, here is a lesser known woman, Frances Ellen Watkins Harper, a poet, abolitionist, and speaker. In the 1960s, she was a widowed mother raising a child alone, and yet she was also writing passionate speeches and organizing with other women. She said, "We are all bound up together in one great bundle of humanity." That's sisterhood. That's collective liberation. Fast forward to the 1960s and 70s. Beauty salons were the original safe spaces for Black women. Here, we could get our hair styled, yes, but also swap advice, talk politics, grieve quietly, or celebrate a childhood's milestone. They were sacred spaces where secrets were kept and women were reminded of their worth. This was one of the few places where their beauty was affirmed and celebrated. Growing up, I watched women put on a brave face no matter what was going on behind closed doors. I don't remember seeing much confiding or lifting up at that time. Now, this could be due to my age at the time and not fully understanding all the dynamics at play. But I do distinctly remember as a child knowing that I wanted to create deep bonds of friendship that I didn't see much from the adult women in my life. Some women fear the fire. Some women simply become it. R.H. Sin. For me, this quote captures the essence of female friendship as a transformative force. When women come together in deep, authentic connection, they don't just survive adversity, they become the very force that reshapes it. Female friendships often ignite confidence, inspire purpose, and fuel the courage to speak truth and take up space. The fire here represents both the challenges that we face as women and the raw power that we carry. Some may be intimidated by that power, by the emotional intensity, the truth telling that happens in sacred sisterhood. But those that lean into it, they become the fire, unapologetically bold, beautifully dangerous to systems of oppression, and deeply nurturing to one another. In a culture that downplays friendship and prioritizes romantic connections, choosing to be truly connected to your friends is a courageous act. Now let's shift a little bit and talk about how sisterhood actually liberates us. In a world that tries to make women feel small, friendship becomes the space where we can get to expand and be ourselves fully. When I was in my 20s, I found myself in a season of unraveling and rediscovery. I was navigating the kind of quiet confusion that often comes with trying to figure out who you are outside of other people's expectations. Somewhere along the way, I started dimming my light, questioning my voice, shrinking myself to fit into spaces that didn't honor me. Does that sound familiar? But growth has a way of finding you when you're finally still enough to listen. It came in the form of challenging conversations, unexpected mirrors, and gentle reminders from the women around me, those who saw me clearly, even when I couldn't. They challenged me to stop playing small, to take up space, to trust the sound of my voice. For me, this was the genesis of my coming of age journey. The decade of my 20s was the catalyst for the beginning to give myself permission to exist outside of all the noise that was created by the expectations of others and systems that limited me in ways that would only become clear much, much later in my life. True sisterhood is not built on perfection, but on presence, the willingness to stand beside each other in joy, in pain, and in becoming. Alex L. Let's not forget the Women's Political Council, or WPC, a group of Black women in Montgomery, Alabama, who were the behind-the-scenes architects of the Montgomery bus boycott in 1955. Long before Dr. King stepped onto the national stage, these women had already been organizing, advocating, and demanding justice. They distributed thousands of flyers overnight, coordinated carpool systems, and kept spirits high during months of protest and unrest. The WPC was founded by Joanne Robinson, a professor who, alongside women like Mary Fair Burks and Claudette Colvin, built networks of trust, strategy, and care. Their sisterhood was deeply rooted in a shared vision of liberation, and it laid the groundworks for the modern civil rights woman. These women were often left out of headline building movements. Several years ago, I once interviewed a cancer survivor, and her words still move me to this day. I remember her saying, "It wasn't the doctors or the chemo that got me through. It was my sisters, blood, and chosen, who came to care for me, who massaged my feet, who lifted me up and gave me a reason to hope when I was nearly at the end of my rope." That's the kind of support that medicine can't prescribe. That's soul work. Now, there are times when sisterhood is hard. Let's be real, sisterhood isn't always soft and glowing. Sometimes it's tough love. Sometimes it's during heartbreak that it blooms. It reminds me of Celie and Shug Avery in The Color Purple, a friendship that was anything but simple. Shug wasn't just Celie's friend, she was a mirror, a disruptor, and in many ways a guide. She helped Celie find her voice, her self-worth, and her own definition of love. But even that relationship, as liberating as it was, had its tensions and limits. There's a moment in the story where you can actually feel Celie growing into herself, into her independence, into her womanhood. And while Shug was the catalyst, she wasn't always ready for the full version of Celie's awakening. That's real. Sometimes the people who help us to find our wings aren't prepared to see us fly or to fly beyond them. I think most of us can see aspects of ourselves in this portrayal of Black female friendship in A Color Purple. Just like Celie, I had to learn that sometimes love lives in the letting go. For more than a few times in my life, I found myself examining the dynamics of what it means to be a friend. In Waiting to Exhale, the iconic book by Toni Morrison, which was also adapted into a movie that is now a classic in Black culture, it peeled back the layers in a way that explored the evolving nature of female friendships. Yes, we remember the men and the heartbreak, the dramatic exits, and that unforgettable moment with the burning car. But what truly lingers for me is the bond between the women: Savannah, Robin, Gloria, Bernadine, each of them flawed, fearless, and searching. I'd like us to take a moment to examine this quote. "Female friendships are a source of resilience. They are spaces where women are not only seen and understood, but also challenged to grow. In these relationships, we find mirrors, anchors, and wings." Dr. Thelma Bryant. Now I want to highlight some famous female dynamics or sisterhoods that inspire me. Queen Latifah and Jada Pinkett Smith. Their friendship spans decades. From Set It Off to red carpets, they've stood in each other's corners through loss, career pivots, and other milestones. When Queen Latifah lost her mother, Jada flew to be by her side with no cameras, no press, just love. Then there is the iconic friendship of Oprah Winfrey and Gayle King. Now, this is a friendship that has seen a lot, and it still remains. These two have been writing for each other since the 1970s, long before fame and fortune. They've weathered criticism and transitions, all with a kind of radical honesty and love that didn't flinch. Often, Oprah has been quoted saying that Gayle was the one who held her hand when she was at her lowest. When the media was brutal or the pressure became too much, Gayle would remind her, "You are not your headlines. You are still you." And Gayle, she's always said that Oprah made her feel seen when the world overlooked her. What's so beautiful to me about their friendship is that there seems to be no competition, just support, admiration, and decades of deep knowing. It is a masterclass in what it looks like to grow and evolve with someone by your side, cheering you on no matter the season or difficulty. If the kitchen table was the altar of old, the group chat is our modern day sacred space. Now, I participate in a group chat made up of women from different cities, all navigating motherhood, womanhood, careers, love, and all the rest. We drop check-ins, "You got this, sis" texts, memes, and "girl, listen" voice notes. When one of us was forced into an unexpected financial transition, the group rallied. Resume help, job leads, encouragement, and raised funds. In this moment, the whole chat was activated and rallying before lunch. Now, to me, that's the power of chosen sisterhood. In the age of social media, women are forming circles online that feel as intimate as the hair salons and sacred spaces of our ancestors. Again, I just want to take a moment to appreciate each and every one of you who are taking time to spend a moment with me on today's podcast. I truly appreciate your support and encouragement. From Black girls who travel to the NAP Ministries community threads, or Rooted, the sister circle and movement by Minister Jazz, we're redefining sisterhood for the digital age. You can get all the details by visiting Sisterhood Sit-In on Instagram. Now, how do we cultivate and sustain friendships? Because sustaining sisterhood does take work, but it is the kind that I feel shows us ourselves, our soul, and it doesn't drain us in all the ways that life can at times. Here's a few tips. Number 1, be vulnerable. When someone in your circle confides in you, this can be a powerful moment where transparency can give a pathway to strength, otherwise just out of reach. Number 2, make space. Don't just wait for crises to call. Normalize midday just thinking of you text. No questions, just answers and just actions. celebrate loud. Number 3, when a friend launches a new business, a passion project, or even a podcast, cheer them on. The free support of just recommending, sharing, and encouraging can go such a long way. Number 4, keep rituals. For the last few years, I've been very intentional about making a vision board, sometimes by myself and oftentimes in a group. I made sure to give myself time and space to dream. Number 5, respect boundaries. You can be close and still need space. Friendships aren't ownership. In my circle, when one of us goes radio silent, we don't take it personal. In these times, we keep the doors of communication open, and we take a moment to check in while giving each other the space to process when needed. Female friendship is an act of resilience, and it is a resistance against systems that thrive when we are isolated. When women connect, they create new worlds. Dr. Joy Harden Bradford. So, here's my invitation to you, Village. Think about your circle. Who pours into you? What kind of friend are you becoming? Pick up the phone. Write that text. Start that group chat. Plan the dinner. Laugh. If needed, cry. Show up. Because in a world that tells women to compete always, choosing sisterhood is choosing freedom. Again, I want to thank you for joining me for this episode of Womanhood Decoded. I am your host, Tasha Ray, and as always, may you remain bold, stay soft, and stay rooted. And as always, you can connect with me online, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.